Welcome to the deep dive.
Mm.
If you've been thinking about sunshine and maybe some incredible drives, you're definitely in the right spot today.
Mm-hmm.
We're focusing in, laser focus really, on getting around Maui, specifically the very latest on car rental prices. This is as of late April 2025.
Yeah, we've been digging into the recent numbers.
Exactly. We've sifted through it all to bring you the key insights, what's happening, why it's happening, and what it all means for your trip budget.
And it's interesting timing, too. The data we're looking at, it comes right after the Easter holiday, April 20th.
Right.
So we're getting this immediate snapshot, sort of how that post-holiday period is hitting the rental market.
And the big news, like right off the bat.
Well, prices have dropped significantly.
For everything.
Across all vehicle categories, yeah. Seriously, these are the lowest prices we've actually seen since, December 2023.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's get into specifics then. What are some of the actual numbers you're seeing?
Okay, so looking at the week starting April 21st, 2025, this is at Kahului Airport, OGG, the lowest overall price per week, $208. That's from 6CT.
$208, and how much of a drop is that?
That's down a solid 20%. But honestly, the real story is when you break it down by the type of car.
Okay, tell us more. What kind of savings are we talking, like for different models?
Right. So a midsize car, again from 6T, that price dropped by 34%.
34.
Yeah. Brings the weekly cost down to just $212.
That's pretty good for a midsize.
It really is. And if you're thinking, maybe a Jeep for exploring, Avis has them at $408 per week. That's down 41%.
Whoa. Okay. 41% on a Jeep. Those are some pretty eye-catching discounts.
Absolutely. And okay, check this out. A convertible from Payless, it's listed at like an unbelievably low $261 for the week.
Get out. $261 for a convertible.
I know. That's down almost half, 48% to be exact.
Unbelievable.
And almost just as surprising, an SUV from 6T, again, is only $211 a week.
Wait, $211 for an SUV?
Yeah, I mean, that's barely more than you'd expect for like a basic compact car. It's wild.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
So anyone picturing themselves, cruising the road to Hana, top down, or needing SUV space, these prices could really make a difference.
Totally changes the calculation.
What about bigger groups? Families needing minivans?
Yeah, even minivans are seeing these big drops. Budget has them listed for $533 a week.
That's down.
A massive 55% decrease.
Wow.
Interestingly, though, the one exception we saw in the data this week, the 7-seat SUV from Payless, that one held steady. Still $420 a week.
Okay, so almost everything else plummeted, but the big SUVs stayed put.
Got it. So what's the reason behind all these pretty dramatic price drops? It doesn't feel like just random chance.
No, definitely not. The most likely reason, and what our data really points to, is that typical post-holiday slowdown in travel.
The Easter effect.
Exactly. With Easter breakover, demand usually softens a bit, right?
Okay.
And the rental companies, they adjust prices down to match. It's historically kind of a lower travel season right now. Okay, that makes perfect sense. So, look, if your Maui trip is coming up soon, like in the next few weeks, this is fantastic news.
Definitely.
But what if you're planning maybe a bit further out? What's the price forecast look like heading into May?
Well, if you look at the online booking systems, the advanced reservations, they are showing signs of an upward trend. Prices seem to be creeping up for late April into late May.
Oh, so the deals might be short-lived.
Well, hold on, because it's really important to note that recently, the actual last-minute prices we've been tracking, they've consistently been lower than those forecast prices.
Ah, okay, so those early predictions might be a bit high.
They might not be the final word, exactly. And if you look at the bigger picture, our historical data, going back 5 years now, it shows a pretty consistent pattern.
Which is?
Which is that car rental prices in Maui tend to be lower in April and May. Kind of a sweet spot.
Okay.
And that lower price window usually lasts until about mid-June. Then summer travel kicks in, demand goes up, and, well, prices usually follow.
Right, the summer surge. Okay, so historically, spring is generally a good time for deals, which, naturally brings up a key question for listeners. Given these price swings, is it generally better to lock in your rental car way in advance, or could you actually be better off booking closer to your travel dates?
That's the million-dollar question for saving money, isn't it? The difference we see, between those last-minute prices and the advanced booking prices, it tells you a lot about supply and demand, basically.
How so?
Well, if The rental companies think demand's going to be high and they won't have many cars left. They'll often jack up those last-minute prices, right?
That makes sense. Scarcity premium.
Exactly. But if they think they're going to have too many cars sitting on the lot, well, then those last-minute prices tend to drop. Sometimes quite a bit.
Okay. And what does our historical data show for Maui specifically? Which way does it usually go?
Last-minute rental prices in Maui have actually been lower than the advance booking prices nearly 90% of the time.
Wait, 90%. Lower at the last minute.
Almost 9 times out of 10, yeah. It's a really strong trend. Kind of goes against what most people assume about booking travel, you know?
Definitely does. That's something really important to keep in mind. Do we have like a concrete example of this happening right now?
We do, yeah. Let's take a compact car rental starting this past Monday, April 21st.
Okay.
If you had booked that exact car 5 weeks earlier, the price was around $269 for the week.
$269 5 weeks out.
Right. Now, if you waited and booked just 1 week before pickup, that price dropped to $234 a week.
Okay, better.
But the actual last-minute price we saw, the price available right on Monday, only $208 per week.
Wow. So $269 down to $208 just by waiting.
Exactly. So in this case, waiting definitely paid off.
Yeah.
Significant savings.
Okay, so the message here seems pretty clear then. If you've already booked a Maui rental car for the next few weeks, maybe check your cancellation policy.
Definitely worth a look.
See if you can potentially rebook it at one of these lower last-minute rates. The signs are pointing towards these lower last-minute prices sticking around, at least for the near future.
That's what the current data suggests, yes. Now, let's talk about another way folks might try to save some cash. Renting off airport.
Right, that's a common tip. Is it usually cheaper?
Generally, yeah. Renting away from the airport often means lower taxes and fees mandated by the government. Plus, you avoid what sometimes gets called a convenience premium.
The price you pay for grabbing the car right after you land.
Pretty much. They charge a bit more for that ease of access.
Makes sense.
However, what was really interesting was during this past winter and spring, that usual pattern kind of got disrupted.
Oh, how so?
We saw surprisingly high demand and sometimes really limited car availability at those off-airport locations, which kind of counterintuitively sometimes made their prices higher than at the airport.
Huh. So the usual advice didn't hold for a while there.
Correct. It was flipped on its head for a bit. But the good news is for this week we're looking at, the week of April 21st, it looks like the more typical pattern is mostly back.
Meaning off-airport is cheaper again?
Largely, yes. Off-airport prices seem to be lower again, just one heads up.
Okay.
Our data suggests that availability for certain types of vehicles, Jeeps, convertibles, might still be a bit tight at those off-airport spots.
Ah, okay. So you might save money, but you might have fewer choices on the kind of car you get.
Exactly. It's a potential trade-off to be aware of.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. Now, let's zoom out a bit. How do Maui's current rental costs stack up against the other main Hawaiian islands? Is Maui the cheap spot right now?
Okay, let's look across the state again for rentals starting April 21st. In Honolulu, H&L, the average weekly rate is about $267. That's barely changed, down maybe 1% from last week.
Okay, $267 in Honolulu. Maui was $208.
Right, $208 for the cheapest, so Maui's looking good there. Now, over on Kauai at Lihue Airport, LIH, it's noticeably higher, $328 per week. That's actually up 7%.
Okay, $320 on Kauai. So Maui is definitely looking more affordable compared to Oahu and Kauai right now. What about the Big Island?
Ah, the Big Island. This is where things get pretty dramatic.
Oh, yeah.
Kona Airport, KOA, the average weekly price jumped to $639.
$639. Wow. How much of an increase is that?
That's up 42%, a big jump.
42%, okay.
But wait, there's more. Hilo, ITO Airport.
Prices
there have just skyrocketed to a staggering $833 per week.
$833 for a week?
Yep, that's an increase of 207%.
Good grief. What on earth is happening in Hilo? Did they run out of cars?
It's basically tripled in price in just 1 week. The reason. It's directly tied to the Merry Monarch Festival.
Ah, the big hula festival.
Exactly. It's a huge cultural event, very popular, running April 20th to 26th this year. And it's centered right there in Hilo.
So demand just went through the roof.
Exponentially, yeah. So that explains those eye-watering prices in Hilo and the big jump in Kona, too.
Okay, that definitely puts those numbers into context. So bottom line, despite those crazy Big Island prices, Maui is currently the most budget-friendly major island for renting a car.
That's what the data shows right now, yes.
Okay. Now, just to give listeners some background on where all this info is coming from,
Right, transparency is good.
let's talk quickly about the data itself. How are we tracking this?
Sure. So we've been systematically tracking weekly prices for 7 main vehicle types. That's compact, midsize, Jeep, convertible, standard SUV, the 7-seat SUV, and minivans. We started doing that consistently back in July 2024, and the data comes from 10 major rental companies at Maui's Kahului Airport. You know, Alamo, Avis, Budget, Dollar, Enterprise, Hertz, National, Payless, 6T, and Thrifty.
The big players.
Pretty much. And for the basic economy car category, we've actually been tracking those prices weekly even longer since July 2023.
So this isn't just a one-off snapshot. It's based on ongoing, consistent data collection.
Exactly. And we also have that historical context from a previous 5-year study we did that looked at economy car prices specifically from 2013 to 2018.
Right. That helps spot the longer-term patterns.
It does. And we actually wrote about some key findings from that older study in a blog post back on July 14th, 2024. It was called "When is the Best Time to Rent a Car in Maui?" So that gives more historical depth.
And the sources for the current numbers.
The primary sources for this current ongoing tracking are rentalcars.com and the booking site rentals.mauicarental.biz.
Okay, great background. And for listeners who are thinking, okay, I need to check prices for my trip dates, what's the best way for them to see current rates and what's actually available?
Yeah, the most direct way is probably to check out the Cars and Rates section on the website that supports our analysis, or just go straight to that booking platform, rentals.mauicarental.biz.
Rentals.mauicarental.biz.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
And one thing that's pretty helpful there is it lets you compare options from 8 different companies, aces in there too, along with Alamo, Avis, Budget, Dollar, Enterprise, Payless, and Thrifty.
Okay.
And importantly, it covers various locations across Maui, not just the airport. So you can check Kahului Town, Kihei, Wailea, even Kanapali if that's more convenient.
Useful if you're considering that off-airport option.
Exactly. And another key thing, they generally offer bookings with no cancellation penalties, which gives you that flexibility we were talking about, you know, if prices drop later.
Right. That ability to rebook is crucial if you're playing the last-minute game. Okay, that sounds like a really solid resource for anyone planning their Maui transport. All right, we have covered a lot of ground here today. Really good stuff.
Okay.
Let's try and boil it down to the key takeaways for everyone listening.
Absolutely. So I think the main message for anyone with Maui travel coming up soon, like in the very near future, is that right now, late April 2025, it looks like a really good opportunity to potentially snag a cheaper car rental. We're seeing some pretty significant price cuts compared to recent months.
Big drops across most types of cars. And what's the best advice on when to actually book it?
Well, based on what we're seeing right now and those historical trends, it seems smart to at least keep a close eye on prices. Consider booking closer to your travel dates because those last-minute rates have so often been lower.
Right, that 90% figure is hard to ignore.
It is. And definitely, if you already have a reservation, check those terms. See if you can cancel and rebook at potentially a better rate that's available now.
Good advice. So as you're dreaming of those, incredible Maui views and planning out your adventures, keep these car rental insights in your back pocket.
Definitely. And maybe, just one final thought to leave people with as they finalize their plans.
Okay.
Consider what these fluctuating car rental prices might be hinting at about the the bigger tourism picture in Maui right now. Is this just a typical post-holiday dip? Or could it maybe signal something more, like a shift in the season, or maybe other economic things happening beyond just simple supply and demand?
Interesting point. Food for thought. Is it just a temporary sale or a sign of something changing?
Yeah, just something interesting to mull over as you get ready for that amazing trip.